Do you want to do a dungeon crawl, but you don't have the time or the space necessarily to do Four Against Darkness, or do a solo D&D, or Tunnels and Trolls Adventures, all of which we've talked about in the past? Then I've got the game for you on Gaming It Alone. So the game we're going to talk about today is actually a bunch of games. There's 22 decks that are available to you, and they are card decks. They're not standard 52, but they are standard poker-sized decks. And that is called Dungeon Runner. And I have three of the decks here. And we'll talk about a little bit about them today. They are, I had that one upside down. They are dungeon crawls in a card form. They don't take up a heck of a lot of space. You need a little bit of space, probably less than you would need to play a game of solitaire to play the game, and you will need a couple of 10-sided dice. So of course those aren't included in the deck of cards, but that's something that you would need to pick up. Being a gamer, I always recommend being a dice goblin, at least, if not a dice dragon, and having plenty of gaming dice hanging around so you can break out two of those 10-siders, a couple of 20s, whatever it is that you need for the game to use as counters or for rolls. But you do need the two 10-sided dice. The other thing you need to do is, when you purchase the game, you can buy it as a print and play, but since there are 52 cards in the deck, unless you want, and they're all black and white, but unless you want to use a lot of ink to print these out, as well as the PDF instruction book, which is pretty hefty, and I've got it printed double-sided. And you do need to have the instruction book, by the way, not only for the instructions, but for other reasons, which I'll show you later. It's going to take a lot of ink and a lot of paper, a lot of card stock to get all of that out. But the bonus is that you can easily sleeve those cards if you want to. With these, I get these through Drive-Thru Cards, which is part of Drive-Thru RPG, and they come in these neat little tuck boxes. The problem is, it's a tuck box. The cards fit in there so perfectly, and there's a little bit of extra oomph there on the tuck box, but the cards fit in there perfectly. There's no room for me to sleeve these cards. And I like to keep them in the tuck boxes because the version that you're playing does matter. And that is one of the drawbacks of this game, which, again, I'll cover the drawbacks here in a minute. But what I really like about this game is the fact that it's a fun little dungeon crawler inside the box. You have items that you collect, you have gold that you collect, which of course at the end of the game doesn't mean anything, but it is there, and it adds to that experience. It's very thematic to have the gold, to have the items that you pick up, and you can only have a certain number of items on your person, only one of them active, and then a certain number that are in your backpack. And then at some point, as more items come up, you're going to have to make some decisions about what items you're going to keep and what items you're going to use. Now, picking items that's great, but you also have a lot of encounters with creatures, and those are all done with a roll of a 10-sided die, or should I say two 10-sided dice, actually. What you have here is the hero card, and the hero has all of its various abilities here, and you make rolls against those when you're asked to on a card. But it also has its thwack, which is what it uses to hit, and it has an armor class, which is the defense. And creatures have the same. The last one here is the hit points that you have. So this particular hero has 5 hit points and 5 armor. Yeah, 5 armor and a 6 thwack. So when you roll a 10-sided die as the attacker, you add the result of your 10-sided die to the thwack, and you add the result of the other 10-sided die to the creature's armor class. And if the creature's armor class is bigger than your total thwack, then you've missed. If it's the other way around, you hit for 1 point of damage. And most of the creatures do only have 1 point of damage, so they go away pretty quickly. But there are creatures that have some other abilities that, when they're revealed, or when they're hit, or when you hit them, they hit you, that there are some abilities that can definitely make the game change a little bit. We have here an example of a creature, and this creature has 1 hit point again, has 4 armor class and 4 thwack. So again, the same rules apply when you roll both dice. What I recommend is having 2 different color 10-sided dice and assign 1 color to your hero, 1 color to your creatures, and that way it's real easy to figure out who hit who and so on. But 1 hit point of damage. If you hit the creature, you always have initiative unless the card tells you otherwise. Some cards say you have to make a roll against one of your ability scores to determine initiative. Otherwise, you always have initiative. And if you hit this creature once, then boom, done. But if this creature scores a hit, or I'm sorry, after 1 turn of combat on this one, after the first turn of combat, this creature gains haste, which means they immediately make a second attack against you. So they are effectively moving into attack first. And that can make a difference because they could roll a 10 on their thwack and you could roll a 2. So that would give you 7 on your armor class, and it would give them 14. They would hit you for a point. And when you only have 5 hit points and you're going through a 52 card deck, that's roughly, I'd say, half to 2/3 creatures. That can be painful, especially when you come up against a creature that has more than 1 hit point. In this case, they've got 4 with fairly high thwack, fairly high thwack of 7. So they're going to hit you probably quite a bit. All they need to roll is one better than your roll to hit you, at least with this hero. And there's a lot of text on this one. They summon up to 2 random pixies or plants from Limbo, which is your discard pile, to fight alongside them. So their party can grow and means that you have more effort behind you. If they would take a hit, roll a d10 on 5 or less, then one of the allies takes the hit instead. So you can also have allies, and there's ally cards in there that will defend you if you make that roll in the same way that this does for the pixies. Now, the pixies and whatnot, they're not going to hit you. They don't attack you. Only this card does. But they can make it take longer for you to whittle her down, which gives her a chance to whittle you down. And with her having 4 hit points and you having 5 hit points, you're almost at an equal point there. So you have less advantage. And she also heals 1 hit point for every 5 turns. So if it's taking you a 6th turn to defeat her, then she's healed a hit point, and you're going to have to take at least 1 more turn to defeat her. So, it gets pretty wicked, which you'd expect and you kind of would want in a dungeon crawl, to have easy creatures to defeat as well as some that take some. Here's one of the allies that I mentioned for you, and all they have is hit points and their guard number. And this is, you have to roll this or below to have them come in and defend you with their hit points. So this character is much more likely to defend you than, say, a skeleton. Some of the decks do have skeletons that'll come in, but their guard number is pretty low, so they're less likely to come in and defend you unless you get a nice lucky roll. And this one has some information too, that they only take 1 hit point of damage for any attack that hits. So so if there's something on the card that says you would take more than 1 hit point of damage, and there are some that do that you take 2 hit points of damage when you get hit, then no matter what, this one only takes 1. So kind of cool. You do get to, when you draw the allies, there are no limits to how many allies you can have out at a time. So that's actually really nice. Now, the gameplay itself, it runs very smoothly. You pull out your hero, you determine your quest, remove or add whatever cards you need to. You have 2 essential decks that you're drawing from. You have the top deck and the bottom deck. The bottom deck is where your quest cards are going to go, and the top deck is the dungeon that you're crawling through to get down to the quest. So the quest deck is 15 cards total, or it's 15 cards plus the cards that you need to add to the deck. And then the rest of your deck is the battle deck, is the dungeon that you're going to crawl through. and you're going to shuffle each of them, and you lay them. The instructions have you laying them across each other. So you'd have your bottom deck turned sideways and your top deck. Personally, I go along with most other games, and I just put my bottom deck right there. And it works the same way, and it takes up a little less space. It's a little less confusing in the end. But it is fun. It's a quick play on Board Game Geek. They give these around between a 7 and a 7.3, depending on the deck. As I said, there are 22 decks in this, and it is important because a hero, if you follow the rules, a hero can only play one quest in their deck before they play, and they can't play another quest in their deck until they have played a quest in another deck. So you have to have at least 2 decks, and each deck comes with a hero, so they can swap back and forth. The other thing is that a hero can't play the same quest twice. So if you've lost the quest, then you're out of the quest. So that makes the replayability off of 2 decks, you're only going to get maybe 10 playthroughs. There's about 5 or 6 quests per deck. So you get about 10 playthroughs, and then you're effectively done. Now, that's if you follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, if you play a little loose and fast with the rules, then you can replay as much as you want, in which case there's infinite replayability because every shuffle is going to be different. So you're going to encounter different things, different creatures, different items, different curses and whatnot at different points in the game. I actually do have several decks, so I'm going to play by the rules for now, but eventually I will probably just start repeating, especially in ones where my hero has lost the deck. So, as I said, each deck does come with its own hero, and they are easily swappable between the decks. It's essentially anything goes, but as far as the heroes are concerned, which is nice, which kind of makes it fun and makes the replay a little more fun because you can play that same quest, totally different hero, totally different stats, maybe even that hero has magic where this hero doesn't, and so the play becomes a little different. So that's nice. Couple of things I don't like about the game is that it does kind of get a little repetitive over time because you're just playing with a deck of 52 cards, and you play the same. As I said, most of the creatures have 1 hit point, so you start getting those lucky, not even necessarily lucky rolls, but decent rolls coming through, and you have just beat your way down the dungeon deck into the quests. And then depending on the quests, it could be to kill off 3 creatures to win, or it could be just about anything that the designer has determined. But once you've completed the quest, you've completed the quest. So you go through again, and it is the same creatures each time. So just battling the 1 hit point creatures a lot does get a little bit repetitive, kind of like going through a first-person shooter or a beat-em-up on a video game and having essentially the same characters that you're going up against. It's kind of a nitpicky thing. It's small because I do enjoy playing the game, but overall, I would agree with Board Game Geek and give this about a 7 out of 10. It's something I definitely would play. It's something I like to play when I'm out on the road, but when I'm at home, it may not be something I reach for. I've got plenty of other games, and unless I'm sitting maybe on my couch and I've got my lap desk out where there's plenty of room for me to play this game, then I probably wouldn't grab it right away. But I can throw a couple of decks in a bag and easily transport them. This isn't really an airplane seat friendly game because you do need a little bit of space to have your decks, your draw deck, your discard deck, to put the creature and to have your hero and their allies. You could probably squeeze it in there without too much trouble. I would use 2 10-sided dice though that you don't care too much about, because if you roll it off the tray table, you may never find that die again. Otherwise, I would say this is a great game to take with you to a vacation because it is small. It fits easily, and it's something you can play through pretty quickly. A playthrough for me takes about 15 to 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, depending on how long a battle takes me. Some battles I've had that have gone on a little bit of time. It's also something you could take to a family's house if you need some alone time to ignore your family, which all of us do. Then this would be a nice little game that you can throw into a bag and take with you and get a few minutes of me time. And if you take a couple decks with you, then you can get more me time than you have with maybe just one deck, unless you break those rules that we talked about earlier. So that's all I have for you today on the review of Dungeon Runner. If you like this content and you'd like to see more, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and click on the bell so you can be alerted when I put out more content. If you are interested, I also have a Patreon and a Buy Me Coffee at Gaming It Alone. All the proceeds from those go directly to funding the channel, getting better equipment, and more games. Depending on the Patreon level you subscribe to, you may have an opportunity to provide your own review, your own brief review that I'll share on the channel. You may some polls and options to select maybe the next game I buy or the next game that I review, as well as depending on the tier, a chance to be in a quarterly drawing for a brand new game. So thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.